Righty, welcome back to Five. Joel has sent me some questions. He's an absolute wind-up merchant in this. So he wants to know about Manchester United's transfer policy versus other clubs. So he says, what's my thoughts when I compare United's transfer policy and window versus other clubs in the Premier League? Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Liverpool. Okay. Without any banter aside, I'm not sure Arsenal have recruited that well. Honestly, I don't believe Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. I'm being very serious here. I actually don't rate either of them as players. I look at what Arsenal signed in terms of Zinchenko at left back, and I don't know if that was a desperate need for them. I would have looked to sign a midfielder. It might even be better playing Zinchenko in midfield. Jesus, I'm happy to be wrong on Jesus, but I don't rate him. You know, he might score a few goals, but he won't score 20 goals, so he doesn't scare me in the slightest. Chelsea this summer has been incredibly erratic, and I think that's a new transfer team taking over, and that I'm not 100% sure know what they're doing. So if they don't know what they're doing, they're a bit erratic. If they pull Frankie de Jong off, as well as Koulibaly and some of the other signings that they've made, maybe they've took a step forward, but it feels erratic at the moment, and it also feels like they're linked with every single person. Liverpool, I'm not 100% sure that they've strengthened. I think losing Mane was big for them. Nunez, the jury's got to be out on entirely. And in terms of City, they didn't really have many holes. They might have addressed that hole. I think Haaland is a coup for anyone who brought him in. And, what's Manchester City's policy in terms of signings, and what's Chelsea's policy in terms of signings? I think Liverpool, holistically, over the last 6 or 7 years, have had a great approach to transfers. They've spent when they've needed to, and they've brought in some fantastic players when they have, and they've brought in a couple of relatively rough diamonds. I think Salah was probably in the rough diamond category. I don't think when he was signed, they thought they was getting what they were getting. And even with Mane, I don't think he had a bit of potential coming from Southampton, but nobody, I don't think, thought he was going to do what he's gone on and done. But then they get credited for like Minamino and people like that are just out there signings that haven't worked. Maybe they can justify that on the back of the successes that they've had with the successes that they've had. When I look at United's transfer policy, I don't know what our policy is. Is our policy people who Eric Ten Hag had the number of? Because that's what this window has felt like so far. And then where does Rabiot fit into that? I don't think there's any pre-existing relationship. I don't necessarily see what problem he solves by coming in. We're desperate for a striker. We're seemingly desperate to keep hold of Cristiano Ronaldo, and I don't know why. What is United's strategy? I think it's been a disappointing window for United so far. Martinez looks like a player. Malacia seemingly isn't going to come in and start. And Eriksen, it's a free hit on a free transfer. It probably end up being a success in those metrics. What has upset me the most with our transfer strategy and policy? What upsets me the most is you go in a very clear direction where you bring Eric Ten Hag in, and Ten Hag is going to have a similar style philosophy to work rate and pressing that Ralf Rangnick had. But you've been off Ralf Rangnick because you weren't happy with the things that he says. And clearly didn't listen to the things that he was saying. Ralf Rangnick could see what needed to be implemented, could tell you what players will and will not work, and he said we need 10 players. 1 definite first choice and 2 probable rotation options is not 10 players. That's upsetting. It's upsetting that our board are not serious. There is zero ambition, in my opinion, from United's board to want to be the best team in England. Zero. Absolutely zero. Do I honestly see anything changing anytime soon with the ownership? No. I think it could go worse. If not Ronaldo up top, then who? I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone within the club to do it. I think Charlie McNeil is too young, way off it. Same with Hugo. And I don't trust this board to go out and find the very best replacement out there. It could be a problem for us. You and Rio were screaming to play the youngsters at this rate. Who and why? Well, I think you have to go and look at the tour. You see what Charlie Savage did and you see what Zidane Iqbal did. You can't tell me that they only played well on tour and they wouldn't replicate that form in the Premier League. They were playing against alongside Premier League players and Manchester United players and putting in clearly better performances. Garnacho is another one. Teden Mengi wasn't on the tour, but I don't see what we could lose from having him in and around the squad. Ethan Laird's now gone on loan to QPR. I think he's a better option than Delot at right back. Manchester United have got a lot of good youngsters. Jimmy Garner. Why are we talking about Jimmy Garner being sold when we're desperate for a midfielder? Why are we bringing in Rabiot and $250,000 a week when we've got Jimmy Garner? When you think about the abilities of the two, I'm not necessarily sure Rabiot's an upgrade on him. He's certainly not an upgrade when it comes to attitude and problems off the field. At this rate, your top four and where Manchester United will finish. City and Liverpool were very difficult to shake. I think Tottenham have shown that they can compete. And they're probably going to end up inside the top three. Fourth is up for debate. It will not be Arsenal, so relax yourself. I would assume it'll be Chelsea. And I would also assume United are not going to stay this bad. It took him about 2 or 3 months before he managed to get to grips with it at Ajax, Ten Hag. And I could see a similar sort of thing developing here at United. I believe in this guy. I hear the right things. He's making the right noises, but he's going to need at least 2 or 3 new signings before the end of this window if we're going to have any hope of getting in that top 4. And we can't be looking at going far in Europa either, because that will absolutely kill us. That's going to be too difficult to do. Do both. So that's what I think anyway. Agree, disagree, argue and abuse me in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.